Tinfoil hat. Oh, what the fuck are you guys even talking about?
Global controls will have to be imposed, and a world governing body will be created to enforce them.
Welcome to Tinfoil Hat. We go deep, homeboy. Aaron, open your mind. Drink from the fountain of knowledge. There's lizard people everywhere. That's some interdimensional shit. Wake up, Aaron.
This is only the beginning.
Dude, you just blew my mind.
Are you ready to get your mind blown?
Good morning, Swarm, and welcome to Tinfoil Hat. You know I am. You know I'm here to do. I'm here to
rock.
Join me as always, Xavier Guerrero, and on the ones and twos, Jay Nice, Juicy Johnny, Johnny Woodard, live from the Wise Wolf Gold and Silver Studios. That's right. You can get precious metals sent to your house by just going to SamTripoli.gold using the promo code TINFOIL, and for as little as $50 a month, you can have precious metals sent right to your house to hedge your bets against inflation. So let's go. We have a really great show for you today. We have Jeremy Ryan Slate, and he comes and drops the hammer of the gods on us. It's an amazing episode. We break down what happened to Rome, the true story of Rome, and how it compares to today. And it is step by step by step. So enjoy this banger, okay? But real quick, this Saturday night, I am going to be in Indianapolis. That's right. 2 shows. Bang, bang, pow. I'm going to be, there's an 8 and a 10:30 show. And then I'm going to be, then Tuesday night, we got a mother of all comedy chaoses, okay? Wow, they take it down? Okay, there's 2 comedy chaoses. There's an 8 p.m. We got Bert Kreischer, Andrew Santino, Bobby Lee, Esther Pajinski, and Todd Barry. And the second show is Bert Kreischer, Bobby Lee, Tony Rock, Josh Wolf, Blair Saki, and more. Grab those tickets while you can. Then at the end of the month, I'm at Jade on the Water in Long Beach. Okay, my special is coming out, guys. My special is coming out. It's called Quiet. It will probably be out mid-August. It's 53 minutes of fire. Nothing but bangers. It's called Quiet. The actual name is Why Is Everybody Getting Quiet? It should be available at SamTripoli.com. Sneak preview before I put it everywhere else. I will keep you informed. Anything else, guys?
This Saturday, we don't smoke the same live with the professional roller. Tickets at FullyToxic.com.
At Johnny Woodard on Twitter. Come hang out.
Okay, guys, real quick, I want to take a moment. I want to send love to Christina Pajinski. She had to deal with breast cancer, and she's in the hospital. She said it went great. There's no 2 better human beings on the planet, no matter what the internet tells you. The 2 greatest people on the planet are Tom Segura and Christina Pajinski. I can't express to you enough how much they've helped me in my life. They've shown me kindness when a lot of people didn't want to. There's no bigger G on the planet than both of them. Christina is fire. She gets it, and she's funny, and she's going through it. And we just want to, on behalf of myself, everybody on the show, and I would hope the entire swarm, we want to send love to her. If you guys follow her, send her love. We want her to really get quick, fast, okay? We love you. And the final thing I want to say is that I just love you all very much. I can't thank you guys enough for listening to me and listening to us for the last 8 years almost. And you guys can listen to anybody you want. And the fact that you still listen to us with all of our quirks and all of our weirdness is such a blessing. So I just want to say thank you from me, from the guys, to you guys. Without you, we'd just be talking to yourself. I don't know how I'd be able to take care of my family. So with that, enjoy the show.
From the fountain of knowledge.
Let's get into it. Very excited to have this gentleman on. He was supposed to be on last week, but some weird connecting issues happened. But here we are, making it happen right when it was really supposed to happen. He is a podcaster. You've seen him on the Union of the Unwanted, and I'm very excited to have him here. Welcome for the first time, hopefully many times, Jeremy Ryan. How are you, Jeremy?
Hey, I'm doing great today, man. Stoked to be hanging out with you guys.
Jeremy, we really do appreciate you coming on and being understanding. Last week seemed to be a giant misunderstanding. But for those who may not be familiar with you and your podcast, can you tell our guests a little bit about yourself and where they can find you?
Yeah, so I've been podcasting since 2014. I've done like 1,300 episodes in that time, and it was a lot more about talking to best-selling authors and people like that. But in the last couple of years, I've gotten a lot more political, I guess, because of the world we live in and some of the things that have really kind of pissed me off. And my master's is actually in the Roman Empire. And since midway through last year, a degree that I didn't think was very useful has now had me having a lot of big conversations about those parallels and what they mean for where we're at in the world today.
That's amazing. That's amazing, dude. Dude, when you saw that story pop, you're like, oh, it's my time.
It was less like that. My wife was like, honey, you're suddenly relevant. I'm like, I wasn't relevant before? Are you kidding me? Like, what is this bullshit?
I don't want to get too far off the course, but I just feel like that is got to be such a worry with so many people that are just going to college, getting degrees and things they think are interesting, then hitting the market, and there's no market for you at all. And that to me is kind of crazy, right? Like, it's just kind of crazy.
Yeah, well, I think that the thing is, too, for most careers, you really don't need a college degree anymore. And I definitely wouldn't recommend people do college in the way that I did, because it wasn't a very useful thing to get a degree in. And I actually ended up teaching private school a couple years after getting my master's, because there's nothing else you really do with a degree in the Roman Empire. And my mom ended up having a really bad stroke in 2012, and it made me look at a lot of what I was doing. And I tried a bunch of businesses before I started a PR agency in 2015, which has nothing to do with the Roman Empire. And that's, how I've been spending my life the last 10 years.
Oh, such an interesting topic, too. And the final thing on that is like, when I went to college, this was many, many years ago, and literally the beginning of the 90s, I went in 91, 92 was the first year I went to college. And I remember big selling point was like, oh, it's 4-1 girls, 3-1 girls. And then you start getting into now like how expensive college is. And you're like, and you hear the statistic, like 70% of the debt women have 70% of the debt. And how much of that is coming just from college, which is a made up number in terms of what they're charging you.
And then they marry you, and now you owe half of their debt now.
Yeah. but it's like kind of crazy, right? I mean,
well, there's more student loan debt than unsecured credit card debt, which I think is the wild part. And that's kind of the next bubble that's going to pop, because, my degree is definitely not one I would recommend people getting. But like a lot of people getting these degrees in, like women's studies and liberal arts and all these different things, like you're not really going to do anything with those. So you're getting out of school with a degree that you're highly unqualified to actually do anything. The loans are predatory too, but people agree to these loans.
Well, so my thing is, how long till those degrees aren't available at Cal State LA or
they're always
gonna be available with no jobs as long as someone's willing to take the class?
Because it's actually about giving you a skill set that doesn't translate and selling you a huge debt, and then taking that money that you're giving to college and just turn around and giving it to the military industrial complex. And that's what people don't realize. That's why these boycott, divest, sanction movements are such a a lightning rod issue, is because people don't realize how much of that college fund money is going to the military industrial complex. That's why they can't have this boycotting happening, because it's a giant money laundering scheme from the government to itself, basically, which is these, Boeing and all of them they basically run the government. So it's just a giant circle jerk of money. So if you boycott those companies because they all work with Israel, then you're doing you're hitting them right in the pocketbook. That's why they'll never go away.
Well, bankers run the world, right? You look at the Federal Reserve, the main investor in that is the Bank of International Settlements in Basel. Oh. So, as much as you want to say that, bankers don't run the world, they 100% do, man.
Yeah, well, I mean, Daddy's out here banging with Hitler dick riders. They can't tell me why Hitler didn't take out the Bank of International Settlements when it was taking 25% of its, what is that, export, Grand National GMP and exports? Does that make any sense? But that's basically what they were taking 25% of the profits that Germany was making. Like,
well, and even you look at a big part of it too is the settlement from the First World War as well, because they were paying France a lot of money, which in the Weimar era is what caused the hyperinflation. So their money's worth nothing, right? And they have to pay for these different things, and that's there's this whole story about somebody going to get a loaf of bread, and they have a wheelbarrow full of money, and by the time they get to the store to buy that loaf of bread, their wheelbarrow isn't enough, and that's what happens in hyperinflation. It happened in Rome. We're getting very close to a hyperinflation type of situation here. And, there's not much you can do. And that's why they talk about the dollar being the reserve currency of the world. If that ever changes, right, if we're no longer the petrodollar, well, you're never going to have a wheelbarrow big enough that you can get to the store fast enough to buy anything, because that's hyperinflation.
Yep. And we're seeing it right now. And just huge. So let's get into what we want to talk about, because I love this topic. And it is Rome, and are men thinking about Rome every day, all day, every day?
So interestingly enough, I think most people think about Rome all the time and they don't really even realize it. So for example, a lot of the words you use, like inauguration is a good example of a word. Augury is actually how Romans would look at bird signs and say, like, based on what the birds are doing in the sky today, should we attack Carthage? So the word inauguration actually comes from them looking at bird signs and deciding what they should do from that. Even there's cultural things as well. So the idea of after you get married, carrying your wife across the threshold, it actually comes from when the first king of the Romans, Romulus, founded the kingdom. He founded it from, criminals and whoever else he could find in Italy, and they didn't have any women. So what did they do? Is they had a dinner, and they invited this neighboring tribe called the Sabines to dinner. And during that dinner, the men actually kidnapped all the women and raped them. It's why it's called the rape of the Sabine women. So when you hear of the idea of carrying a woman across the threshold, it actually comes from a very, dastardly thing of how the Romans actually got their first wives. So a lot of what people deal with every day and a lot of our cultural things every day actually come from the Roman Empire. And I don't think people consider it because it's become so ingrained in our society.
Dude, that is so crazy. And here we are, another episode where, like, just everyone's taking chicks. We went from the fallen angels taking human women, and then, and now we got the Romans doing that. It's so crazy to me.
I got caught up in this TikTok thing he's talking about. Some girl I was dating asked me, how often do you think about the Roman Empire? And I gave her a legitimate answer, and that's what she was looking for. And then she screenshotted me and made it a TikTok thing. But, like, I was wondering, I was like, why do I? Because she asked me, like, what do you think about it? I was like, they brought the aqua system, all this stuff, how it went down.
The aqua system?
Yeah, what's it called?
The aqueducts.
The aqueducts.
Okay, respect. I can't judge anybody.
Yeah, exactly.
I didn't even know what GNP was. So it is the GMP that.
Yeah, and I responded with that answer, and then she sent me that every girlfriend's asking their boyfriend, are you into Roman Empire? And, like, a lot of men are answering with, yeah, I think about it at least once a week.
I think about it every day.
Are you serious?
Just passing through for some reason.
I don't.
The Roman Empire passes through my skull every day.
I guess the question is, like, there's a lot of different reasons it could be, and I think part of it is a decline of empires thing. If you kind of look at where we are in society right now, we're in a society that's really pushing men out. In some cases, I guess, trying to make them decide they're women. I ran into somebody like that at the gym today, and I was very confused. And
by the way,
I think
you got some guns on you. Am I right? I mean,
oh, thank you. I used to be a competitive powerlifter in my 20s.
You don't see that. He's just chilling, dude.
Yo,
in my almost
Popeye
40s,
shit
I am no longer as big. In my almost 40s, I'm no longer as big as I was in my early 20s. I'm not a big guy, so I'm 5'7", 165, but I was 220 in my early 20s.
5'7", 220? That is just a brick shit house, bro.
Yeah, I was benching. I did competitions. I was benching 455 for a single, deadlifting 635, and squatting 705.
Wow.
You could have been a Roman warrior with those numbers.
You don't get around real well like that, man. You waddle, especially when you're short. Like, I'd go to a theme park and I'd have to wear, like, those Under Armour sliders so my thighs didn't rub and I could get through the whole day. I'm a lot happier at 165,
yeah,
man.
you should. Oh, wow, dude. So you dropped 60-something pounds, huh, man? Yeah, I get that, dude. I'm trying. I at my highest I was 225. I'm trying to get down to 170. I'm moving slowly. I see it. I feel it. People even tell me, "Oh, you lost your gut."
But do you feel it? Do you actually feel like more like
100?
Yeah.
Dude, when I get heavy, I know it because my knees start hurting.
That makes sense, yeah.
I literally, I do a joke about it on stage right now, but I told my daughter, I'm like, "Oh man, Daddy's knees are hurting," and she's like, "Yeah, because you're fat." I go, "What did you just say?"
Your daughter roasts you, dude.
Dude, I'm telling you, people have no clue what's coming. She has her mom and her dad in her, and they both have nasty wit. So we're bringing out a savage. But back to this.
Well, the point I was making is like I don't think there's really a place for men in our society nowadays, right?
I say that all the time.
Right? Like we're looked at like it's not okay to compete, it's not okay to win things. There's everyone's a winner in some way, which is a little bit stupid. There's winners and losers in life. So I think what's happening is men are looking at historically, where was a time where I could, kind of change my stars, or I could do more, or I could be more, or there was actually a place for me in society. And I think there's this whole matriarchy, patriarchy, battle that comes out in the public sphere. And I think what's happened is we've kind of overcorrected, right? We've gone from a totally masculine society, from a society that doesn't really prevent masculinity. And men are kind of looking every day, well, where do I fit then? Like what do I fit in? And I think that's where, if you look at something like the Roman Empire, it was a very masculine-driven society. And I think for a lot of men, they feel like they would have a place in that.
Well, I just want to say, when we say this, I really do believe it's white people. I find in Latins, there's still machismo culture. When I watch like Telemundo, the weather girl's got a fat rack and a short skirt. They still have an old guy talking. In black culture, I mean, they have their own dynamic, right? But they're still masculine guys, and they're,
I mean, rap's all masculine.
Right,
Rap, hip-hop's
it's all gay,
lately.
actually,
Yeah,
but it presents,
underneath, yeah.
It presents.
So I guess why would white guys have become so emasculated then? Like what? How did we get here, man?
Yeah, no. And this is it. And like I have to watch my words because I specifically on stage when I talk now, like I have to watch my words. White women are very sensitive to like jokes about them. They internalize it. It's a famous.
But isn't that really just like the last 5 years, man? Like, because if you look at like I remember. Gosh, late 90s when Opie and Anthony were still on WNEW, and they'd have Jim Norton calling in talking about Monster Rain and trannies and all this crazy stuff, and those things were funny. And now like those things are like acceptable and considered part of our culture now. And I don't understand how we swung
Jim
so
Norton
far so fast.
is what, married to a tranny nowadays?
Well, and I'm
Is he
fine.
really?
Yeah, good for him. Listen, I got my own religious beliefs.
No, they look
but
happy.
You
I'm really
should
happy
live
for
your
them.
own. For how long was that behind closed doors and nobody was talking about that?
He joked about it all the time.
Live your authentic self.
Right, that's the
Jim
point.
Norton.
That's the point I'm making.
And
Like
he was
back in
serious,
the
though, yeah.
WNEW days, it was funny.
No, you're totally right, and it is this like we're watching this thing where it's like with the Kamala Harris stuff. They had that white woman Zoom where it was like a white woman. Liberal influencers, like we have to use our privilege, and I'm so happy she said that because she finally admitted it, right? That white women have privilege. And again, if you're a white woman, I know a lot of you guys listen to this. I'm not talking about you. You know who I'm talking about, okay? The everybody who still listens to The View and shit like that. But she was like, we have to use our privilege to lift others up, and we should never correct BIPOC or whatever they're called, BIPOC.
Yeah.
BIPOC. What does that stand for?
What?
Black
and something people of color.
Yeah, indigenous
people
of
of
color.
color.
Yeah, it's so ridiculous. And that's who's doing it. That's really who is just that. That's why the rules of political correctness have so much fine print, because it's like based on white women are what they're comfortable with. And like the reason they don't apply the same rules to black men is because white women are so afraid of being called racist.
So is it an
women.
overcorrection? Is that kind of how we got here? Like, I guess we tried so hard to not be one way that we ended up, creating a system that is that way, like an overcorrection?
Yeah, I think what really happened, and again, I'm talking about progressive women, not the women who listen to the show or go to my shows, who I love. But It is that what got encouraged and funded and promoted was the overcorrection. You know, when you take a look, I talk about this all the time when I'm like, everybody on, like, how should people be treated? And I go, well, everyone should be treated like white guys on Twitter in 2018, right? That were just getting teed up on by everybody, including white women. So based on that, I think everybody should be made fun of. But if you studied Twitter around that time, people were just making mad money tweeting retarded shit. Like white people, even Jews who I have a lot from friends of mine, I watch be like, I can't stand white people. And they would get like a bazillion likes. Because the algorithm promoted that. And then people, we didn't really understand what algorithms were at that time. So we took it as that's what people were talking about. We didn't realize that there was a hidden hand artificially promoting and thus controlling what we saw.
Well, and I think, I guess getting back to like men thinking about the Roman Empire as well, I think part of it comes from this overcorrection culturally where men are kind of looking for a place for themselves. And then the bigger thing that's happened for me in a lot of these conversations I've been having over the last year is I think if you look at economically and politically, history doesn't repeat, but in a lot of ways it rhymes as well. So if you want to look at a lot of the problems we have here in America, I like to say a lot of what's happening right now, we're actually experiencing parts of the fall of the Roman Republic and parts of the fall of the Roman Empire at the same time. And I guess just to kind of lay the groundwork on that, Rome is founded in 753 BC as a kingdom. It's a kingdom from 753 BC to 509 BC. And then from 509 BC to 31 BC, it's a republic. And then from 31 BC to 476 AD in the West, it's an empire. So it's like 3 eras in time.
Oh, shit.
And the republic and the empire fall in different ways, but our political system is kind of playing out both of those at the same time. So if you even look at what happened towards the end of the Roman Republic, the last 100 years of that, from 133 to 31, is what's called the Roman Revolution. So what happens during that time period is you have kind of the system of laws breaking down over a period of about 100 years, which leads to the consulship of Julius Caesar in 59 BC. A consul was kind of like the person who was the president, but they would have two of them at the same time because they didn't want one person holding power. And in 59 BC, Caesar holds that office for a year along with a guy named Marcus Biblius. And after that, he spends 9 years in Gaul campaigning. And then he wants to come back to Rome. And his enemies are like, well, in that 1 year you spent as consul and the 9 years you spent as Gaul, we've decided you committed crimes. And if you want to come back to Rome, you're going to have to answer for those crimes. So he decides he wants to be consul again, because if you held that political position, they couldn't prosecute you for anything. So then they call his bluff and he comes back into the city. And that's where the whole idea of crossing the Rubicon comes from, is he has 10 legions with them. He leaves 9 of them at the river, crosses the river with 1, and his enemies actually flee the city. So he really doesn't have much to deal with. So the Republic kind of falls in a very political fashion.
Whoa.
But if you want to look at how the empire falls very differently. There's 2 things that cause the empire to fall, and it really starts coming to a head in the late 3rd century. So that's the 200s AD. And when you're looking at that, there's 2 things really killing it. And that's out of control immigration and hyperinflation. By 284 AD, they have 15,000% inflation. And the thing that's kind of terrifying to me about that, Sam, is if you look at it, we're politically experiencing the fall of a republic, but if economically we're experiencing the fall of an empire at the same time.
Hey guys, real quick, I want to tell you about our good friends at Wise Wolf Gold and Silver. Their monthly membership program is the best in the business, and it's real simple, and you get precious metals sent right to your home. Let me tell you about Wise Wolf Gold and Silver. Let me tell you about them. That's right. Join the Wolf Pack now. Trust me, because if you're paying attention, you know the de-dollarization is real. Fiat is fake, and you don't want to be left holding the bag when the dollar collapses. Gold and silver have been money through all of recorded history and are an excellent way to protect yourself from inflation and geopolitical turmoil. That's why I trust my friends at Wise Wolf Gold and Silver for all precious metals. All things precious metals. I love it. I am part of the Wolf Pack. Every month I have precious metals sent right to my house, and I love it. See, Wise Wolf Gold and Silver is veteran owned and A+ rating by the Better Business Bureau. No transaction is too big or too small. You can even roll over your 401k or IRA into physical gold and silver. And if you think you can't afford precious metals, think again. With the Wolfpack monthly membership program, you can get gold and silver delivered directly to your door for as little as $50 a month. As little as $50 a month, you can have precious metals. You start loading it up, man. By the end of the year, you'll have a good chunk of precious metals. Dude, it's crazy. You just go to SamTripoli.gold. You can see all the different plans they have. Man, it's like $50. Lone Wolf, Warrior Wolf, $125. Alpha Wolf is $250. And it just keeps going up. Sent to your house. Right there. It's that simple. It's that simple. Easy peasy. Get in, get out, get your gold, get your silver. I love it. I'm doing it. Dude, I'm telling you, all of these affiliates I use, and I use Wise Wolf gold and silver. I use it all the time. It's real simple. So if you want to get in, this is how you do it. Wise Wolf gold and silver also deals in and accepts Bitcoin. So here's what I need you to do. Okay, go to SamTripoli.gold, promo code tinfoil at checkout to receive free constitutional silver. That's right. And remember, in a world of bulls and bears, be the wolf. Well, a lot of stuff that people talk about. By the way, that just blew my mind. All that stuff. that was well worth you getting that degree. I mean, for that moment alone, was fucking fire. Okay,
Well, my wife tells me I come off like Rain Man when I'm talking about like Roman Empire dates.
Yeah, Julius Caesar.
242 toothpicks.
Yeah. So I loved it. I loved all that. So I often hear that signs of when empire is in decay, this, and this happens. You hear Rogan talk about a lot on this podcast. And I'm not talking about what you were talking about. I'm talking about when you hear the talking heads or the podcast talk about it. And what really resonated with me with what you just said is like, to me, this is all manufactured. None of it happens naturally. And what happens is the elites, these occult elites, start to see the writing on the wall. They've gotten too greedy. It's becoming too obvious. People are tired of the economic situation. They're over war. They're over this. They're over that. And they're starting to wake up to what's happening. And even though it's only been 10 years, but I kind of start to feel this starts to happen really, really, really in hyperdrive around 2014, specifically 2015. We start to really see the internet is really, personally, I think that was peak internet. We are at peak internet. The transfer of information is the greatest it's ever been. The mainstream media is getting checked in real time. People are starting to realize, hey, something's up. Doesn't make sense. Why is Hillary Clinton in the lead, but she can't fill a cafeteria? People are like Jimmy Dores in the lead camps, and even people from the left.
Bernie Sanders was during that time, right?
Yeah, that's Bernie. That's who I'm talking about. Bernie Sanders is doing arenas. She's doing cafeterias. They're telling us she's leading in the polls. We start to see a separation from what the elites want us to know and what we're researching ourselves. And then suddenly they wake up to that. And specifically, the Vegas shooting is, I think, a real watershed moment in this whole process. And
it's wild to me, though, by the way, how little we still know about that Vegas shooting. Like, how do we know almost nothing about it? It's very, very strange. I know I had a few people that are friends of mine that were actually stuck in, I think it was the Hard Rock at the time that whole thing was happening, and the story just kind of died. So you're correct that like that's just kind of a major, I guess, break in the information stream of things.
Yeah, I mean that's when the story instantly dies. The FBI realizes it's got away from them instantly, and so they kill it. And it's very weird, because we always think the internet, and this is where I start to go, the internet's way more controlled than we believe. It's you get into the dead internet, the Potemkin Village. How did I pronounce it correctly?
Yeah, no, you did.
Potemkin Village situation, and a great example of that is in pop culture, the LeBron James steroid story. Like suddenly there's this story where the LeBron James is on a list of people busted with steroids, right? I don't know the specifics. This is how much it's been hidden. I don't even know the specifics of the story. I just know for a brief blimp, there was a story about LeBron James using juice. And you saw a couple of the ex-NBA players talking about it in their podcast, and then that story died. Like, died hard. Even in the independent podcasting world, people stopped talking about it. And I go, how is that fucking possible? And this is what we're into right now. They completely control all the information. They're silencing everybody. But going back to what you're talking about is like the trans, dude, when the trans are released, that's when the elites think we know too much. And the trans and the cross-dressers and the...
Well, it's a post-truth world. That's kind of what we've gotten to. And I think if you even look at... I just wrote a thread about this on Twitter not too long ago. If you even look at how Biden got pushed out of the presidential race, you know, if you look at what happened, you know, a year ago they were saying, you know, will Biden run for re-election? Then he says, okay, I'm going to run for re-election. Then last December, there's an article that comes out and says, well, if Trump wasn't running, you know, I wouldn't run against him. Then we have earlier this year, they have the debate in July, which never happens for a presidential debate. It's the earliest it's ever happened because they basically wanted to shove the old guy out there without his meds and see what would happen. Then the media jumps in and says Biden's too old. You look at this, how this whole thing happened. The donors start pulling out publicly, and you have Biden then having to continually deny in the media that he's going to run for president. His camp is saying this, blah, blah, blah. Then all in one weekend, it goes down that, you know, he's got COVID. He can't run for president. We don't hear from him. And then on Sunday, the whole thing just peters out. Like, it's a post-truth world where they're taking, you know, they're basically controlling the entire narrative because we've gone from Project Mockingbird, where the media was basically telling you what to think, to now they're controlling everything. And I think the major issue is, and if General Michael Flynn had brought this up to me, and it wasn't the way I had looked at it. If you even look at the media and government connections, a lot of times you'll have one person in the media, and then let's say their spouse is in an intelligence agency. So you have kind of this connection that goes back and forth between the media and also intelligence agencies and the military. So these stories just continue to circulate to whatever they're trying to achieve.
No, 100%. 100%. I just said no, then I said 100%. And people do that all the time. You'll find people go, no, yes, all the time.
Very common.
And I just realized that.
Always.
But you saw that when a lot of the stories about Russian collusion were coming out. You know, there was either the Obama administration, the CIA, the FBI, and their spouses that were all in the media. They were all over the media. This person's editor at this magazine. This person's editor at this magazine. This, you know, if you study BuzzFeed, you know, Peretti, which is Chelsea Peretti's brother. Peretti is like that's old banking money from way back in the day, dude. You know, like they're
even that whole Russian collusion narrative, a lot of it that people seem to just forget, you know, a lot of it comes back to the intelligence agencies with the 2014 Maidan coup, most likely funded by Victoria Nuland and our State Department. And we overturn the whole thing. They get all their corruption in there to kind of use it as their piggy bank. So they don't want anybody looking at Ukraine. And this whole narrative kind of builds right into the whole Russian collusion narrative. And that's the part everybody seems to forget about.
Yeah, so we have this giant war on us. The cultural war starts getting cranked up. I mean, if you know, you bring up kind of that, you know, we're going through two phases of the Roman Empire at one time, or the Roman, what was it?
The Republic and the Empire at the same time. Okay. So the Republic falls politically, whereas the Empire falls more just economically.
And you know, the reason that resonates with me, because I think that we're getting two different banker revolutions happening in America at the same time. We have the Bolshevik Revolution of Russia and the Cultural Revolution of China, and they've combined them. And each of these superpowers, Russia, China, Germany, and now the United States, they use a different playbook. There's still the playbook, which is subversion from within, you know. But it's done in different ways, you know, where in China, let's radicalize their youth to attack the elderly and, parade their grandparents in the middle of the square, telling them that they think the wrong way about the government. Then you have, outsiders who are pretending to be nationals, which is the Bolshevik Revolution and the Jewish Bolsheviks and what they did, especially the Christians in Russia, and how they did it through the inside, pretending to be Russians. And then you have Hitler in Germany and how Hitler pretends to be like this kind of rise to national fame, which you could even say, I'm not comparing the two, but you can even say we've seen that within America a little bit of a guy who's given a, it's like the Freemasons say, we'll give them their hero. And it's the same way, destroyed from within. And that's
I've talked to Charlie Robinson about this too, because I think if you look at it, often people want to say like, this, and you can find anything you want on Rumble or YouTube or whatever, where people are like, oh, it's this group that did it, or it's that group that did it. And I think what we're seeing is a lot of different types of things happening at the same time, and they'll kind of do whatever they're going to do, and at the end they'll fight for who's in control between them, right? Like I think there's a bunch of different groups kind of doing their own thing, like hitting on the Maoist side of things. I don't think enough people are talking about that, right? Like if you look at James Lindsay has been talking about this a lot with, if you look at how the Cultural Revolution in China functioned versus what we're seeing here in America, Mao had black groups and red groups. And you wanted to be a good red communist group. You didn't want to be a black identity because that was something you did not want to be. And you even look at when we're having this recording, I think last night or the night before, they had the was it the white dudes for Kamala or whatever the heck it was?
Yeah.
Those are very similar to like what you would call like a Maoist struggle session. Right. And I think we're seeing a lot of this stuff pervade in our culture. So like why I like to say, we're seeing Rome's republic and empire fall happen at the same time. I think history often rhymes, but it doesn't repeat. So we're seeing a lot of these cultural elements come in because there's a lot of different groups vying for power right now.
I completely and utterly agree, man. But the biggest thing I know is none of it is real, and all of it is astroturfed, and it's being funded by, again, we battle on this show constantly. We've had a guest who I enjoy as a person, and I enjoyed on the show yelling about Jews. And I go, it's low-hanging fruit. It's too freaking easy. It's too obvious to me. And when we go far enough back, you'd start, if you're talking about Julius Caesar, AD, all this stuff, it just sounds to me like Babylon, dude. It just sounds like Babylonian money magic, Babylonian sorcery, black nobility. Like we just, that's what it just sounds like to me. And I say this all the time. The people who took out Julius Caesar are the same people that took out JFK. That's my humble opinion. It's not the exact same people, but it is the same groups.
Well, I think when you look at it too, a big part of it, and this goes back to the conversation that you were having a few minutes ago about, where does this information come from? And I think oftentimes the information we're getting is perverted because a lot of times it comes from, for Julius Caesar, for example, the first thing he does when he becomes dictator for life in 46 BC is he actually pardons all of his enemies. And that's the worst thing he could ever do. It's great because it shows like, hey, I'm a forgiving guy. But the thing that it does for him is those people are actually part of the conspiracy to then kill him. And the writings that survive, other than his commentaries about the Gallic Wars that he wrote in his 9 years in Gaul, are other people writing about him. Even the 476 AD fall of Rome, we look at how that happens. The last emperor of the Western Roman Empire is a child emperor named Romulus Augustus. And for the last 100 years or so, those emperors were actually controlled by barbarian kings, right? They were behind them. So in 476, the final barbarian king, this guy named Odoacer, says, final emperor that you're like maybe 14 or 15, we're going to retire you and we're going to give you an allowance every year, but you're no longer emperor. That's the end of the Roman Empire. And this is the Roman kingdom. But then what happens is your Eastern Roman Empire, the Eastern Roman Empire goes till 1453 AD. The emperor of that, Justinian, wants to reunite the empire. So what does he do? He brings in a military under this general named Belisarius to conquer the whole thing. And his scribes would be the one writing about it because there's a loss of literacy in the West. So your fall of the Roman Empire, where there's often paintings of things, burning and fires, It's from the viewpoint of people that don't want to make Justinian look bad, that in order to try and reunite the whole thing, he burns it down. So I think part of what we've dealt with the information we get is who's had this information, what's their purpose for having it, what viewpoint did they want you to have on it. And I think it just goes into our media now as well. They want you to have a certain belief. They want you to be more willing to be controlled. So they're going to control the information you're receiving.
That's fire, dude. That was fire. I mean, that's just 100% the truth, man. And it's the old saying, the victors write the stories, right? Well, that's not exactly how it's said. How is it said?
To the victor go the spoils.
No, but it's also history is written by the victor.
Well, history is written by the victors.
Yeah, that's
history.
really
It's history.
Yeah, I mean, that's it, man. That is 100% it. And
remember. I'm sorry. I just got when you said that. Actually, it came to mind. Remember, when Clinton was running, Hillary Clinton. They were trying to say it's her story, her story. I was just
the word history actually comes from Greek. The Historiae was written by a guy named Herodotus, and history in Greek just means inquiry. So that the word that we have for history isn't that it's his story; it's just an inquiry into something.
I mean, if you're into things like etymology, the people we have on the show sometimes will just tell you, "Well, it sounds like his story, so it must mean that."
Don't talk about brother like that. We're not supposed
yeah,
to
I mean, there are people who think that, which I'm sure there is some truth.
It's Bishop Larry Gator.
Yeah, that's what I was talking about.
Yeah. I had somebody the other day text me, I'm never going to forget about Bishop Larry Gators. I go, I respect it. He's never coming back unless he does a giant video about how he was completely wrong about us.
He was brainwashed by MK Ultra or something.
Yeah, but for sure. So yeah, I mean, this is what we're looking into. This is what happens. It happens. This is when they controlled demolition. Now, what I really do believe is like you can watch this happen. I believe World War I, World War II was about destroying Europe, bringing in a new empire, which was America. And I think they might be imploding America to bring in China because China is even more under control. They have their population even more under control. What are your thoughts on that?
Well, I think empires are only as useful to the people controlling them. And I think a really good example of this as well is we've seen, the Secret Service may or may not have done a great job in protecting Trump or helping his MK Ultra assassin that we had recently. I know we were talking about this on Union and the Unwanted a couple weeks ago. But then also if you look at the Praetorian Guard were responsible for protecting emperors with the first Emperor Augustus. But what actually ends up happening is the third emperor, a guy named Caligula, who actually he was born Gaius Julius Caesar Germanicus. Caligula was a nickname that means little boot or bootykins. So people that use the name of Caligula for that emperor don't realize it was kind of a funny name meaning bootykins. But he was assassinated by the Praetorian Guard, and they put his uncle Claudius in place to kind of be his puppet. So what ends up happening is they become the power behind the power. And I think you're seeing this now as well with what's happening with will Obama endorse Kamala Harris or won't he? And then he finally does. And then they have that weird phone call that definitely was pre-recorded because they weren't actually talking to each other. So I think oftentimes you have this power behind the power that's existed through time. And you don't hear from them or see from them until they want something in history to change. And I think you're seeing that now here in America, whether it's, the Russian collusion narrative to push Trump out, because whether you like him or not, he wasn't great for the powers that be. You also see that with them pushing Biden in and now trying to push Harris. And I think that's what happens in empires. You've had this same power that's been kind of in the darkness or in the shadows throughout empires. And it's typically the same groups of people throughout time. You look at the banking families in the UK and they step in when things aren't going so well, and then they step back into the shadows. And I think it's been that way throughout history.
And I've said this before, the only way you get assassinated is if the people around that are there to protect you allow you to get assassinated. We see that with the Israeli premier. Like his whole security team just let that shit happen. They let the shooter get close enough. And by the way, the shooter's whole defense was Talmud law. Just a Talmud law. So we see it happen again.
So
whatever you might think about the shooting we just put out, was it a hoax? There's some real great discussion about it. Could even be that it wasn't a real attempt, but it seems super real to Trump. Maybe that's a possibility as well. You just never know what's really going on because it is meant to get you not to know if you're coming or going. That's the whole thing. And now the left is the conspiracy theorist, and the rights believe in the mainstream narrative. This is it. They don't want you knowing if you're coming or going, and this is all a part of it. They don't want. It's like it's right out of 1984. They don't want you trusting your eyes or your ears.
Well, and that's correct because people that can trust their eyes and their ears can make decisions about where they are and what they want to do, and possibly have changes to their government or whoever's in charge. And that's we've always been at war with Eurasia. It's exactly like it is in 1984, and I think that is the problem. If you have bad information, you can't make a decision. And the thing I think is really an interesting comparison between Rome and between now is Romans didn't have the ability to communicate like we did now. So I think at the same time, whether the internet is controlled or not, there is also a lot of truthful information getting out. And I think it's allowing people to organize in a way that they haven't been able to organize before. So to me, I think there's also some changes that may not happen in any other point in history. So I think there's also an ability to have some changes now.
I agree with that totally. I think the internet has allowed us to go, hey, something's happening, and it's kind of like what happened before. And I do think that is waking up. I do think people are waking up to what they're doing. Now, if you listen to people like the Prophet Eddie Bravo, he honestly believes that they want us way farther down the line. They want us on vaccination IDs, all this sort of stuff that just kind of didn't happen because people woke up to it. I think it's possible. I think a big thing that they want you to believe is that they have this omnipresence all the time, and that's a shadow in the cave kind of situation, magic trick. Like, you remember when they were like, and we said this before on the show, but they're like, yeah, this YouTube video that YouTube sent this video and the data from it to the FBI. So if you looked at it, now they know. Well, what's the video? No, we're not going to tell you what the video. Oh, that's great. You remember when, Johnny, you guys might be too young for this, but right after 9/11, we have the terrorist threat warnings.
Yeah, of course.
Yeah,
And they were in cool colors.
Elevated, orange.
Yeah, elevated. But they never told you where it was going to go. Like, would really help if they told you, hey, did we hear something's going to happen at this airport? Don't go there. No, it's meant to be this kind of thing that doesn't put you in your high anxiety state.
So you brought up
It's a
9/11.
constant state of fear. It's
Yes.
and I may look like I'm super young, by the way. I was in high school when 9/11 happened. So I do remember a lot of that, but like, it's a constant state of fear, and they can use fear and uncertainty and also emergency to create to cause their next action, right? Emergency, like a medical emergency that they claim COVID was, allowed them to do a lot of things that they've wanted to do to us for a very long time that in a regular time you couldn't justify. There's a great book by Glenn Greenwald called How Would a Patriot Act? And it looks at the Patriot Act, and a lot of those things had been set up as individual bills, and unless 9/11 happens, the Patriot Act doesn't happen, right? Because it creates this fervor for please save us, right? How does Augustus become the first emperor of the Roman Empire? Not because he says, I'm going to go be emperor, but because they had been through 100 years of civil war. He brings peace to the Republic, and he says, guess what, guys? I'm going to retire. And people are freaked out because they've been at war for 100 years. So what do they say? Augustus, you can't leave us. Please be the guy continuing to run this Roman Republic, which will become an empire. So he comes up with this word salad, which is the word first citizen or first among equals. And he calls himself the princeps. That's where we get our modern prince from. And all of the vestiges of a republic remain, but now you have this weird person of the princeps or the first citizen in front of it. He won't get the military title till much later on of imperator, which is the word emperor comes from. So people get what they ask for, right? And I think that's what emergencies create, is they create a desire to have the powers that be or whatever force it is push in what they want that people would not accept during a normal time.
You are so correct, because that gets straight up into Oklahoma City. Oklahoma City there's a lot going on there, but one thing it starts to really chip away, if not hack away, machete style, at our right to privacy. And then what they couldn't get with that, they got with 9/11, okay? And then you get into COVID, all these stuff start to be hacking away your personal freedoms, and this idea that we have this giant event, okay? We have this, and if you study like 9/11 is the best example of how the official story doesn't even make any sense, but if you take it...
Didn't they lose like $2 billion or something like that the day before?
No, it was like,
Yeah,
wasn't it?
That was
wasn't
Rumsfeld who came out.
But,
and said that.
but it was trillions, right? It
Yeah,
was like $6 trillion.
massive
Was it
amount.
trillions?
Yeah, it was
Yeah.
unaccounted for in defense
And then
spending.
he literally says in there, and everyone called me crazy, I know what you're saying. Why do I want to attack the Pentagon? And the next day, the Pentagon is quote unquote attacked. But the whole point is they don't do their job. They didn't do their job, and now they want to take more of our rights away so they could do their job.
Don't you think the perfection of this effort though is the phone? You know, because now we give them all. You know, instead of them having to try to take these things, we just give it to them. You get like social media and all that. All of these things that used to be very private, things that nobody would ever know about you, now are just freely given. To me, that's kind of the end game. Is that once everything's digital, finally, you know, which we're getting there, we're close. Then none of this will matter because they can just take all of it. You know.
Yeah, I mean, but there's so much data to take. Now, the people on
the
the
AI
show...
will help them sort through it. That's the thing. The AI is a big part.
That's also something... You know, I know we're early on into AI and it's only going to grow, but again, hold on. There's also the shadow in the cave of what AI is going to do to us. Like this whole thing where it's like, you know, because they have this giant building, which is just a giant computer system storing all of our data. Yeah. And the whole thing is just going to be like, they have so much on you. It's not till they focus on you that they're going to be able to do something about you.
Yeah, because
I think those things are scary as well. But I think that the thing people don't consider is actually like the byproducts of those things, right? I'm curious 5 years from now or 10 years from now, how much has our literacy dropped because everyone's using Chat GPT to write, right? Like, you know, you look at the movie Idiocracy when they get to the point where, what is it? The president Macho Camacho, is that what it is? With the guy that kind of looks like Michelle Obama. And they're putting Gatorade on their plants because it has electrolytes. But that's what happens, right? Like we get into these different things of the ease of using this thing. So yes, there's, you know, the nefarious things AI could be doing, but even at the same time, we're losing literacy and we're losing a lot of the things that enable us to actually be like, you know, to have agency and have autonomy.
Well, I'll be honest, it's already there. Spell checking helps me out so much. Like it's hard for me to it's like a hard word. I'm like, how do you spell that? And it already does it for me. Where I don't even have to try to do it. I don't even have to sound it out. It just does it for me.
Yeah, but there's always been retards though too. Right?
Well, do you remember back in the days
I'm making
when
more retards? What I'm saying, it's not helping my retardedness. It's just making it worse and worse.
You use whiteout. That industry's gone. What happened to the whiteout family? Like,
well, do you remember the days of having to back in the days of having to remember phone numbers? Like, you know, what was the area code? You know, is it 201? Is it 973? Is it 212? What is it to figure out? Dude, I remember like 3 phone numbers now. Like, I think that's what's happened to a lot of us. Is it's the ease of technology has changed how we operate.
But I also I'm not saying, because I see it in comedy now. Like, people cannot digest complex information. They just cannot digest it. They can't. And
do you think maybe they just want that from comedy now because
we're bombarded with negative stuff? Yeah, 100%. 100%. There, but it is, maybe that's always been like that. We just had these gatekeepers forcing them to enjoy highbrow shit. And that they never really
did you feel forced to enjoy like Carlin and Hicks and like I didn't feel forced.
But that was what was presented to us. There were always.
I don't know if Hicks was ever presented really. I mean, he wasn't put out there too.
He was put out there. Johnny,
I can still listen to the same Mitch Hedberg album to this day and die laughing.
Nobody's saying that they weren't funny. But Bill Hicks still got specials on HBO because there was something about being the guy that put that on the gatekeepers. There was something about presenting that gave them the credibility, right? There were always the family-friendly, super clean comics, and they were called corporate acts, and you never heard of them, but they made a lot of money entertaining corporate shows. But now the corporate act is now the mainstream comic, and they get off stage acting like they're fucking Eminem when they're really the fucking Wiggles, man. You know, and it's just the truth. They're just that's all I see. Anyways, so the point is this. I totally agree with what everyone's saying in terms of I don't think we're getting dumber. I just think we're oversaturated with useless knowledge. And the reason I say that is my grandmother, like, she thought the telephone answering machine was the devil. She couldn't work it forever. So going back to what you said earlier, which I think is so important, like, where is modern man today? You always have these ridiculous memes going, where is this guy today? And it's like a shredded guy. You know, I'm like, if you take the guys from Mad Men and you brought them today, they would get Me Too'd, fired, and sued right out of the gate. Right out of the gate. And this is why I don't find political correctness acceptable, because there's just too much fine print to it. What we won't allow white men to say versus every other group is just absolutely ridiculous. And that's why I don't take it serious, because most of the rules are just to handicap white guys because nobody wants to compete against them. It's just the truth. And you can get angry at me for saying that. I don't care. It's just show me one law or rule that favors white guys. It just doesn't exist. And there's a million rules that favor everybody else. It's just the way it is, dude.
Well, I think part of the issue is, and I think this is kind of, you know, no matter what race you are, like, I think if they can control the words you have to use in order to have the conversation, eventually they have to control your thoughts. You have to formulate those words, and you're starting to lose autonomy. And I think that's one of the bigger issues we're seeing here is if you can't use the word you need to use in order to describe a situation, you have to use somebody else's verbiage, like we're seeing with a lot of the strange words we're having in the woke world right now. We have to use words that have already we've been given as this is the new accepted terminology to describe things we've always known or describe things we've always understood. If you control the language, you can control people's thoughts, and then the ultimate end game is forcing them to use your verbiage to have the conversation you want to have.
Yep.
Well, I mean, I don't know if you guys know, but TikTok's got this whole new, like, wordage and vocabulary for these new kids that they only understand. Like,
yeah, but
Riz
that
and
happens
stuff.
every time.
No, I think
every
it's more. I
generation.
think they're saying it's more than that. That's totally dumbing these kids down. Where they're just making words and they're like their own phrases. Very, very different than like lingo. It's like their own wordage where you can't even understand it. And I watched like a little documentary and I'm listening. I'm like, I don't understand what they're saying. There's lingo, there's like slang, and then there's their own language that they're getting off of TikTok. That TikTok's like giving it to them. I don't know. You'll see. I don't know if you see it. Like Riz, like these words they just make up. Like I don't know. I might be wrong, but
also a wonderful way to handicap people is by making it so the youth have nothing in common with their grandparents, and the grandparents can't pass on any knowledge to the younger generations. Why the elites, you know, elderly class pass on all the information to the elites younger generation, and they get a running start on us.
Well, that's a Maoist tactic to create a separation between the youth and the elder generations.
Yep. That's how it goes, man. That's what I'm saying. That's the cultural revolution part of this whole thing. That's what's going on.
The other day I went fishing, and there was this kid that was running around. It was a Friday. It was like deep sea fishing. This kid running around, and he was telling me how he's 16. I asked him, I was like, "Why aren't you in school? It's Friday." His parents own 4 or 5 boats. They said, "Come work here." Now, and then he's learning actual skills about fishing, real man stuff instead of being in a school. And I was like, damn, Mike. But that's how you got your parents got to be rich to understand you don't got to go to school. There's other stuff for you to do. This kid's still taking college courses. He's still going to school, but he's making money on Friday instead of sitting there.
That's how it used to be.
And I was so jealous of him. I was like, bro, you got like real man skills. He's out there showing everybody how to fish, pulling the anchor down at 16, 17-year-olds.
Yeah.
And I'm like, I didn't know shit. I literally was really just ready to go to school from 7 to 8, just learn. And I was like, bro, this is it. This is how rich people stay rich.
Yeah, they teach their kids skills. Go on.
Well, I think it's also having so I grew up in the part of New Jersey that most people don't think exists. Like it's all farms out here. So I live on 5 acres now with a couple dozen chickens and pigs and everything else. And I learned how to work on a farm. I learned how to build houses. I worked for a house painter all through my teenage years, college years, and grad school to pay for stuff. So I think part of the problem is we're not asking younger generations to work where they're getting this life experience, and I think there's so much value in that. But also, it goes back down to the dumbing down of education, and this is what you're talking with TikTok about. One of the biggest surprises to me in the last year in having these conversations about the Roman Empire is I'm finding people just literally they don't know a little bit about it. They know nothing about it. And the reason for that is it would have been a big part of education in the 1800s, so in the 19th century. But what happens is around the time of the Industrial Revolution, they want people to be able to work in factories. So what do? They bring in the Austro-Hungarian education model, which means we need people to be soldiers and work in factories.
Yeah.
We don't need people to think for themselves. We need them to be able to come out and do a certain thing. And so even college or our higher education still doesn't have this idea of learning how to think and learning how to actually look at a problem and solve it. So what we've created are a class of people that don't know how to do, and they don't know how to think. And it creates, kind of this future where no one can actually build the future, right? We're just kind of effect of whatever happens to us.
Yeah, and if you want the proof of that, go back and look at the literature or even the correspondence of like military men from the 1800s, like the Civil War. And it's all laden with references to history that the average, like a military guy today would have no idea about, unless they were really high up. It's fascinating. Like especially the literature, though, you see it there, all these deep references that unless you are educated in that time, or sought it out in this time, you miss most of it. Would just go right over your head.
No, I agree. I totally
and it was a
agree.
normal part of society back in the day, right?
Exactly,
like I know,
yeah.
like for me, like I went to Catholic school, so like we get educated a little bit differently. And in 5th grade, they had us reading Shakespeare. And I remember like I was just so confused because Old English is hard as heck to understand, and most people are never exposed to that. I think that's part of the problem. Is it doesn't mean you need to be this like super cultured person, but I think to a certain standpoint, our culture still needs some of those things to exist, or you kind of end up, with Megan the Stallion and kind of what we got in that with like where modern music's went, right? Like, and we've just kind of lost what culture is.
Yeah, and I would tell you that culture has always been manufactured, and what we're talking about is our heritage, being passed down from family to family about what your family used to do, the skill sets you used to have, and that's all gone. It's been replaced by this kind of Marxist intelligence magic tricks to get you to do the dumbest shit possible. And there's things going on right now that are going to have insane. We haven't even seen the effects of them. One thing is this OnlyFans phenomenon, where these women who I've said this before on the show. These women who are built like Vikings, who should be mating with high-end, high-functioning males, aren't going to be doing that. And now they're going to be hooking up with knuckle-dragger knuckleheads. And that's going to destroy our gene pool. It's going to destroy, because these women aren't meant to be putting out super soldiers, not be putting their beehole on the internet. And now, I listened to Amber Rose. She was just like 99% of the women out there that are in the sex industry don't want to be there. Maybe streetwalkers, but these OF fans love what they're doing, and they have no clue what they're doing to themselves. They have no clue the doors they're closing in their life.
This is what I feel, not what I feel, but I feel like an OnlyFans chick is super hot. She's like, okay, I'm gonna do OnlyFans, and then when I'm done, I'm gonna go get myself a basketball player. That basketball player is not gonna want you after he finds out that there's videos of you fucking shoving shit up your vagina.
That is, to me, like, I'm gonna get a basketball player. It's like you're gonna get the most unavailable dude out there, and then you're gonna be angry when he, it's just like it doesn't make any fucking.
If your goal is to have a kid thrown in you and then get child support payments the rest of your life, hey, that would work,
Yeah.
I mean, they will do that at least.
Yeah, yeah. So, anyways, it's like interesting times. So, I mean, one thing I'm dealing with right now is the suppression of dissent. Come on, dog. Dissentants. I'm dealing with that still. No matter how nice I play, I played very nice on YouTube. They don't care. I'm on their list. Nope. Instagram won't even allow me to run ads.
I can't collab with you no more.
I can't collab. I can't run ads. I can't do nothing. And for a while there, I wasn't even putting up political stuff. I was just more making fun of modern culture. And the AI is just a pink-haired fucking little bitch.
Well, I saw the other day. What was it? You had a screenshot of something from Instagram that got taken down.
Yeah,
what was that? It was-
It's an explore page.
Yeah, Instagram does that to me where they will suggest something to me and then ding me for it.
So I mean, it's entrapment, surely.
They did that. They suggested a naughty show flyer. They're like, "Hey, man, you remember this flyer? It's really cool. It's got Tara Patrick, no nudity. She's just looking super hot, right? You remember this flyer?" I'm like, "Yeah, man, it's pretty cool. Facebook, you should share it." I'm like, "Really? Do you think I should do that?" "Yeah, you should totally do that." "Okay, Facebook, I must share. Share. Boop, boop, boop. You violated community standards. You're in jail for 2 weeks. You got to suck Mark Zuckerberg's lizard dick before you get to come back." I'm like,
That's how they got the Gretchen Whitmer kidnapping.
yeah, 100%. They ran a sting on me and got me.
You know which one you got? Some girl telling me, I was going to be so happy for Sam. He posted a video saying we're here to award women for their 5 things. And then it plays on and it's just women's orgasms. And they were like, I had so much hope for Sam. I thought he was coming around.
That was an old school video.
Old school naughty video.
The different orgasms women have, the Frankenstein, the poltergeist.
Well, how much of the internet is honeypotting, though, too? Like you mentioned the Gretchen Whitmer thing where the FBI basically set up all these guys. And I think one or two of the actual people on this, attempted kidnapping plot of Whitmer was actually even not a Fed. And it's so interesting when you look at even, and I know we're joking about like maybe Facebook's honeypotting you and getting you to like post these different things, but in all seriousness, how much of internet culture is setting you up to kind of red flag you to say, okay, let's unperson this person. Like look what a lot of what's happened with Alex Jones, right? Like the guy isn't even allowed to exist on YouTube. He can't say his name. He's kind of like, Gargamel or something. It's a name you can't mention. And we've kind of gotten to this place in internet culture where I am very curious of how much of it is really honeypotting people to see like, okay, what can we get them to do? And if they do it, we know that person's a person that doesn't get to speak anymore.
Yeah, I mean, 100%. I think that's totally it. I think that's completely and utterly it. And then there's just some people that are allowed to say whatever the hell they want. They never get dinged. It's very interesting to me. It's just very interesting to me. Let's get into some social engineering. What do you think that is about? I mean, like we see it happening in real time right now. And it's unbelievable that people don't get what was being done. A great example of this, and maybe I'm wrong, is how Hollywood loves to turn everybody gay. Have you noticed this? Like every historical figure is gay now.
It's crazy.
Right? It's like, oh, dude, Jesus is gay. You're like, that's blasphemous. That's really blasphemous. Okay, you're a piece of shit for saying that. But then the next one was like Hitler. Hitler's gay. You were like, well, he did tweak in L.A. They used to call tweak the queer juice. Okay, so we can understand why he might be getting a little gay. But now the new one is Abraham Lincoln.
Yeah.
Wait a
right?
Well, now I will say, Abraham Lincoln had, and I remember when I first, this has been a thing for a while, that he had a weird relationship with a guy like that was in his service that he would like. They would share a bed sometimes, but when
imagine that bony ass.
Yeah, but I don't think I think he just was he was a very affectionate person, like generally, and things are the.
But the point is,
well, I mean, and
hold on.
Yeah, go ahead.
They call everybody in the past gay, and they don't even question it. The progressives,
well,
and then for 1 minute you go, "Hey, so Obama's gay," and they lose their fucking skulls.
Yeah. Also, the thing when you say like. To them, gay, when they want it to be a thing,
is empowering.
Right, is empowering. But what am I trying to? Okay, so like a gay act to them doesn't make you gay. Like anybody, you want to kiss a guy, that doesn't mean you're gay unless it's somebody they want to be on their team. And then he hugged the guy in that picture. He's obviously gay.
100%. And
Tucker Carlson was talking about this last week. I don't know if you heard about this. That he's saying he claims that Pete Buttigieg isn't actually gay, the transportation secretary, that he kind of realized that was the right cultural bingo card he needed to get to the political level he was at, because I guess he couldn't rise any higher based on his own credentials.
By the way, that's Tim Dillon. That's what everyone thinks about Tim Dillon. Nobody thinks he's actually gay.
I couldn't believe
I think he's gay as fuck.
But on Obama's thing, the reason I think that they can't stand that he's gay or even think about it or even understand it is because they understand he'd be a bottom. Abraham, you would like, okay, I can see him being a top. Is because you understand Obama would be a bottom. You're like, No, that's not going to work. If Obama had more mass on him, I'd be like, okay, he'd be a good gay top.
Okay, I'm not going to dismiss what you're saying there. I think there is something to that, but it's also like culturally, he's so important to them. And deep down inside, as much as they tell you they love gay, they really don't love gay. Like when you say Michelle Obama's a trans, they fucking lose their mind. Yeah. But what do when they want to like take out somebody? They say he's with trans, and you're like, well, if you really respected trans, it wouldn't be a big deal to you.
It wouldn't even be up there.
But the fact that you're trying to mock him by like even trans do that. Yeah. Trans are like, hey, man, give me money or I'm going to say you're with trans. You're like, wow, you're really shitting on yourself.
Did you see that Alex Stein debate? That debate show he went on the other day, and that happened where he said that, Mike Obama was trans. And then they were like, oh, that's terrible. And he's like, what was it, an insult? Trans? I love trans.
Yeah, it's the truth. And it happens all the time.
Well, it's happened a lot longer than you think of as well. So the big knock on Julius Caesar throughout his political career is they always tried to say he was a bottom, and that was actually how he originally got. They claimed that he got his original political power because there was a local king. There was a lot of like Hellenistic kingdoms in this area in this point in time. So Hellenistic are like kind of the Greek kingdoms remaining from kind of the fall of Alexander the Great's empire. Alexander the Great, by the way, did likely swing both ways. It's Greek culture, and that time period did. But the big knock on Caesar is they would often run this propaganda campaign saying that Julius Caesar was a bottom. So it was something he was actually fighting his entire career.
Bottom's not allowed.
Well, you know, Alexander, I could understand why he's gay. It's the old saying, like, you get so much women ass that you're eventually bored. He's like probably banging. I bet you, I'm going to say Genghis Khan was probably bored of chicks.
You think he banged a couple trans?
I bet you he did, dude. I mean, like, what, a fourth of the world's population has his DNA in them? I mean, come on, dude. Guy was bored.
At least by accident.
But it's so crazy to me that Julius Caesar might have been a power bottom. Like it's just crazy to me because that means he just Brad Pitted it, right? Like the whole story about Brad Pitt was that he was just tossed around.
But okay, what makes him a power bottom instead of just a bottom?
When you aggressively want it.
Okay,
I think you get hungry hippo.
Actually, nice acting there. Actually, that was really good acting.
I think that's the big thing, is that you're just like hungry for it. That's a big difference.
What a power bottom is.
Yeah.
Good job, XG.
I know, XG. How many guys do you work for? Gotcha. But no, that's interesting. That's very interesting. Like it really is it's like that famous video that's going around about the conservative guy who goes, he's doing a man on street interview with I think a pretty attractive black woman. And he's just like, we're just here celebrating trans women. So what is it like? And she's like, I am not trans. I'm a biologist. But trans are women. I'm like, yeah, totally. That's our whole point of this interview is that trans women are women. What is it like? And she starts flipping out.
Yeah, she's like, no, but I was born a woman. He's like, yeah, I know you were born a woman. Totally. Yeah.
Right? I mean, this is. And I just keep calling white. I hate. I'm going to say this: progressive white women are cultural terrorists. They just really are. When you look at all the drag shows with kids, it's all smiling face, progressive white chicks. They're the ones at the comedy clubs that are angry at jokes, but then go home and listen to murder podcasts for their entertainment. Like it's just they have zero problems. These progressive white women with hypocrisy.
And the thing is, a lot of it is they're childless.
Yeah, well, the ones that aren't childless are almost worse because they use their children as like participation trophies.
It's like a badge of honor. I know it's not a white woman, but even look at Dwayne Wade and kind of the way he's pushed his trans kid around. Like it's like I think it becomes like a badge of honor for some of these people, and I think it allows them to have kind of the position in society that they want because this thing they have. And it's kind of sad, man.
Yeah. I mean, 100%. It is kind of sad. And it's just like we're looking at like numbers that make no sense, which is like Megan Fox, who's so hot, right? 3 of her kids are trans. Like, how's that happen?
Oh, yeah, it's crazy. And this is another thing Stein brought up on that debate show, which is I had to look it up. And the debate the debate show is clearly run by liberals, but they do this little fact check thing on the screen, and this was an accurate fact. Something like 80% of LGBT have a history of abuse, like they've been abused,
it's
which
very
is
high.
I mean, what does that suggest about that? You know what I mean? And we know abusers are more likely to abuse. So what does that suggest about them? You know, I mean, it's just
that is my biggest problem with this pushing queer theory on children. Is that most of the people doing it are going to probably multiple therapists to deal with multiple childhood traumas. And now they're okay with the cycle continuing to the next generation. Like when you have kids, most of the time when you have kids, you go, I'm going to stop the cycle of this with my family. Like with my family, my father, who I love with all my heart, paranoia, not being able to work with people.
That's how things get better. That kind of mindset.
Yeah, you're like, I'm not going to install this into my children. I'm going to uninstall this and teach them the way I've learned later on in life that isn't the best way to operate. With these people, they're just like, misery loves company, dude. And you get into like, especially older feminists, what they're doing to younger feminists. They're miserable people. And all you're doing is telling them to toe the line for some political movement that has basically effed you in your B.
Well, I think part of it too is like, I guess Mr. Beast's sidekick is kind of the thing that's made me look at this. Is like you wonder like how much of it is also like how much of it is like how a person feels, and how much of it is actually like it's a protection mechanism, right? Like if I'm this thing, well, nobody can say anything about all these strange things I'm doing, and I think that's the thing that
Bingo.
Really makes it difficult to discern what's happening, because I'm sure there's a small percentage of people that struggle with that and feel like that, but then how much of it is actually people that have these perverted things they want to do with kids or whatever it might be, and they're using it as a smokescreen because of this thing you can't say anything about it. Do you get what I'm saying?
Right. And it's also that, like, there was Joe Rogan had Sam Talent on. They were joking about there was a time when pedophiles weren't seen the way they are now. They weren't seen as good, but they also, like, Jerry Seinfeld was allowed to walk around with a giant-titted 17-year-old. Right, hold on.
Go ahead.
So, like, but over time, with the internet, I mean, I think the internet has allowed everyone to get together going, hey, man, this happened to me and it really fucked me up, right? Like when I'm old enough to remember when we used to think childhood stars were just crazy people and ended up doing drugs, and then we realized they were doing drugs because they all got molested and got ran through.
What I was going to say is what do you mean by that is I remember being a kid and people just saying, you don't hang out with that uncle.
Yeah.
Now you'd go, I'd sock that uncle. I'd hit him. There's no such thing as, we don't leave the kids around so-and-so's uncle. Like, no, he's not allowed at the house.
Yeah.
He's got to get
It's
the fuck
a totally
out.
different
That's
thing.
what I'm saying.
Yes.
Is that what you mean? How back then it was mostly like, just keep him away from Uncle so-and-so.
So what changed that then? Because this goes back to what you were saying before, Sam, where like, so much of our culture is controlled, and at some point in time, it serves someone for this to be the situation now. So what causes that to change so that now it's, invite the uncle everybody wanted to stay for over for dinner and give them a place to sleep where the kids are? Like, how did we get from there to here?
Well, because I think through the internet, we've all allowed to talk about what's happened to us.
Like how bad it actually was.
Right? And as bad as the Me Too movement is, and it's completely coming out as a fraud, right? There is a part of it that, hey man, you shouldn't treat women like sex objects at work. Now, it's actually blown up in women's faces now. They found that people don't want to work with them on projects because they're so afraid of being like, called a sex offender or a harasser and stuff like that. It's actually hurt women in the workplace. It's made it so people aren't comfortable working with them because a lot of women just try to make up a story. Now, I'm not saying that sexual harassment didn't happen. Of course it did. But we've seen the story of no evidence, trauma, guy loses his job. Later on, we found out it's not real.
And doesn't get his job back. Doesn't get some money. We're like, hey, I'm sorry, here's some loot. I'd be like, okay, well, at least I got some money back. But no, they end up losing their career, losing their job, losing their scholarships, all that.
Yeah,
and
we just find out that when people now can talk about it, people are talking about the trauma that happened in their life and how it's affected that people are waking up and understanding that, oh man, this is kind of weird. Now, what I will tell you about these pedophile hunters And I think they're hilarious. They're getting very violent now, and we're starting to enter a place where you might start to elicit sympathy for these guys if you're beating the shit out of them in the middle of a Walmart. Now, I think we all agree pedophiles need their dicks kicked in, literally and figuratively. But what I'm noticing about a lot of these guys, they seem to be on the spectrum.
Did you see the last one?
They seem to be on the spectrum, dude, right? They seem to be.
But how much of it's a distraction as well, right? Like, and the reason I say that is like, it's kind of like the magician getting you to watch this while they're actually doing this. Because like, if you want to, I guess, bringing it back to Rome, in the middle of the 200s, there's this crazy teenage emperor that becomes emperor. His name's Elagabalus, and he was the priest of this cult called the Cult of Elagabal, where they basically worship this black rock. He made everyone in Rome come to the wedding of his black rock to another black rock.
What?
He was pulled around in a chariot of prostitutes. He would give people political jobs based on the length of their member. You know, the longer your member, the better job you got.
I'd be fucked.
He put his hairdresser in charge of the grain supply. And if you look at it, when things like that are happening, that's when inflation hits overdrive. So my question is, I guess bringing it back to now, are we watching all this stuff culturally because, you know, the shit's about to hit the fan in terms of where we're going economically, right? Like they want people fighting a different battle because they're much easier to do what you want to do in the background.
Yes, and that goes back to what I said earlier, that it's a shift focus by the elites because they know chaos. People are waking up to what's happening. So they don't want you focusing on that. They want you, like, they don't want you focusing on Joe Biden getting all this money from China or Russia or wherever. They want you focusing on, you know, is Mr. Beast assistant getting outed because he's trans or because he's a pedophile? That's what we focus on.
And like, you know,
because if you look at it, so Elagabalus is he's an emperor, I think in the 220s. So I'm not sure off the top of my head, so don't quote me on that. But if you look at it, by 284 AD, they're at 15,000% inflation because during that time period, they've been able to put it into military spending. Does that sound familiar?
Yeah.
As well into a lot of other things during that time period because the generals start taking charge of everything because of the chaos at kind of the level of emperor. And I think it's similar to what's happening now. We have very, incapable people in political positions. We're fighting about all of these different cultural things that we were just discussing a couple seconds ago. And in the background, you know, we're funding a war in Israel. We're funding a war in Ukraine. We're very soon going to be funding a war in Taiwan. So at the same time, they're jacking up spending while we're all kind of, you know, chasing the white rabbit.
No, you're 100% correct. You're 100% correct. So I don't want to keep you all day, but I want to get into I tweeted this the other day, and someone who normally gets my tweets didn't get my tweet. He goes, "What?" And I go, when did college educated people become so stupid? And it's just like these people that were normally, when I was young, a college educated person really had a feel for what was going on in the world. Now it seems like they're completely disconnected and they're just following what the system tells them to do. And it's like my whole thing about intelligence versus smarts. But it's like this education system is just driving us into the ground because you just have a bunch of people with the majority of the wealth playing make-believe and creating a fake world where they fight these kind of windmills in the sense that there's goal lines that the goal lines keep moving. Ending racism, ending sexism, ending homophobia, ending climate. How does that happen? It's never meant to happen. It's only meant to give rich children born with everything a reason to get up in the morning. And that's kind of where we're at, right?
Well, we get back into, and I think this happens throughout history, right? If you look at, you know, towards the end of the Roman Republic, is the Roman Revolution is the rich people all fighting each other. It's not classes against each other. And if you look at the empire, it's a very similar thing. You start to see this developing of two classes of kind of your patricians and your plebeians, and we kind of seem to go back into those classes throughout history. But if you want to look at like how we've gotten there most modernly, I know James Lindsay talks a lot about this. There's a philosopher out of Brazil named Paulo Freire, and he basically took liberation theology, which, by the way, my undergrad degree at Seton Hall, they made us take way too much liberation theology. Like, it was kind of crazy, some of the stuff that I had to read in school. And they takes liberation theology, removes the God from it, and he replaces the God with Marxism. So it becomes the ideas behind liberation theology, but replaced with Marxism. Now, one of his students actually goes back to America and brings that into the colleges of education. So since the 1980s, we've been seeing our colleges of education get pervaded with this stuff. And it's this critical consciousness, right? We're not just looking at math problems, but we're looking at, the theme park is this far from, XYZ, and Johnny couldn't go because his family didn't have a car. Okay, but how about solving the math problem? We've gotten to the point where everything's looked at through a critical lens, and it starts with Paulo Freire bringing it through one of his students in the College of Education in the 80s, and it's kind of pervaded through the 80s and the 90s to where we are now.
Yeah, and I think people are starting to wake up to that, but has the damage been done? I mean,
yes and no. I think so. My kids aren't super old. I have a almost 6-year-old, and I have a 3-year-old, and I have a newborn. We started homeschooling Thank you. We started homeschooling our 5-year-old last year. And I think what I'm seeing, I live in a lake, and most of the people in our lake community are homeschooling their kids. So I think you are starting to see parents reaching for sanity. Have we hit that critical mass already where it's pervaded? I don't know. But I think the more we see people deciding to opt out of that system, that's why one of the big reasons, I know the Libertarian Party's talked about it, is we have to get rid of the Department of Education, because that's how these things pervade, right? They're getting pushed from the top down because, as you mentioned, they want to make it better for the rich and for the powerful to be where they are and keep people where they are. And that's what this Marxist ideology does. So unless we get rid of that, and a lot of it comes back to us as parents taking responsibility for what our kids are learning, we're never going to get out of that.
Yeah, I mean, these kids have no ability to function in society, and that's what we're finding out. And it's all, it just gets so deep. Like, it goes even beyond, let's say, an ideology of terms of like what you were saying about like the liberation Marxism stuff, and that is real. I'm not discounting that at all. But I go, what is even behind that? How does that make it to America? How does that flourish everywhere? How does that work? And then you just go deeper and deeper. You go, are we raising our children to eventually grow up and just have to be on pharmaceuticals to deal with the real world? And what happens to them when they're on these pharmaceuticals? Mm-hmm. They're easily manipulated. They're easily swayed one way or the other. And again, it goes back to what we're talking about, like just trauma being passed down generation to generation, and one group of people having no problems with that. Because hate is more dangerous than anything in the world to a person born with everything in their life. Like, again, we go back to that guy stabbed by the black man, the white guy stabbed by the black guy, and his girlfriend won't give a description because she doesn't want to empower racial stereotypes. Your man was just killed, and you're worried about stereotypes?
How progressive do you think he was? You think he stayed with her?
Oh, dude, he was part of a group that was trying to reform laws, and it came back.
Oh, this is the guy in New York?
Yeah. And he stabbed him right.
That video's brutal.
It's brutal to watch, and it's brutal that his girlfriend does nothing. She sits there, and a black woman has to come and call the cops.
That's crazy.
Come on,
but
man.
even that, like how much more of it is the psychiatric drugging too? Like there's Jim Marrs. If you haven't read any of his books, excellent author. Rest in peace. He passed away a number of years ago, but he traces so much of what's happened to us to psychiatric drugging, right? Where people are numb, they can't think for themselves. You look at a lot of school shooters, you're going to find out a lot of times they were on some sort of psychiatric medication. And I just found out yesterday, I know Adam Curry was talking about a No Agenda, and I didn't know this. Did you know that pilots can't ever have been on any sort of psychiatric medication, whether it's an ADHD drug or anything like that?
Good.
So at the same point in time, they've destroyed our capabilities through a lot of these different drugs too. So we also have that pattern of pharma kind of attacking us too.
I have a friend right now going through a divorce. Super sad, sucks. I feel bad for him. He's been sad on Instagram. Next thing you know, he's like, I'm on antidepressants. You don't need it for that. I'm sorry. I didn't say nothing. I felt bad for him. You got to sit there and understand him. But I want to be like, you're a pussy. You don't need antidepressants because your girl decided to move on, type of thing. And like you said, he don't need it. Now he's on antidepressant. He's feeling great. For how long? How long is he going to be on those pills for?
I'm with you, dude.
Over some bullshit.
And even the science behind it is kind of hooey as well. You know, like we don't actually know all the thing that these SSRIs that they're claiming they do that they actually do. Like we don't know that they're actually helping people in the way they claim. And I know this is one of the last few stories that Tucker did before they pulled him off the air. You know, if you go after pharma, they go after you. And I think the problem we're seeing is they don't want the money to stop, and they're just dumbing down society to make it happen.
Yeah, that's my complete and utter belief. That's exactly what I make everybody dumb. So we're going to get into this. We got political versus cultural. And how do we solve this, man? I mean, you know, you have 2 points left that I want to get into. And this is something I've talked about, which is, again, there's no set rule of political correctness. So what what I can show on my Instagram is totally different than what you can show, what Tinfoil Hat Podcast Instagram can show, what female comics can show, what black comedians can say is totally different. And that's done on purpose. And that is Marxism. That is the creating gender wars. Like if a woman talks about her pussy or sucking dick, bang, Instagram sends it. My N-word bit, bang, gets sent up. But nothing else of mine gets ever promoted. Why? Because that causes problems. But when you get women talking about how much whores they are, bang, that gets promoted, right? Black people complain about race, bang, that gets promoted. Gays talking about how hard it is to be gay or pushing back on homophobia, bang, that gets promoted. It's all done to create like this kind of cultural war between politics.
Well, and that goes back to what we were talking about before, right? Like if you're handling these, you know, class conflicts, this cultural Marxism, if you want to call it that, you're not handling the actual issues that happen. Like almost 100% of our issues are monetary. Are monetary, right? Like if you want to look at it, you know, whether it's funding the military industrial complex or whether it's, you know, whatever the banks are doing in the background, they want you playing this other shell game rather than actually engaging in things that matter. And I think oftentimes Andrew Breitbart would often say that politics is downstream from culture. And I think people on the left and people on the right, they often think they're going to solve these problems through politics, and you're not. What you solve these problems through are actually by correcting your cultural problems. And that doesn't mean that you have to be the purest person out there that, you know, doesn't swear or cuss or do whatever, but it means, you know, starting to take care of your family on a local level, get involved in your community on a local level, your school board, your mayor, start trading with your neighbors. And that doesn't mean you have to have a seed bank in your basement, you know, because you're afraid of what they're, you know, going to do to your food in 5 years or something. But it does mean starting to handle some of these problems individually as a cultural problem, because you're not going to fix it by whoever's in the White House. And I think that's the problem people get sucked into.
Yeah. Because the other stuff is too hard to fix. So why deal with it? When I used to
you can't fix it because the people that would have to fix it, right, are our politicians, which they're not going to, because that shuts off the money hose to them or the power hose to them. So we've kind of gotten to this position where we're handcuffed. And I think just thinking you can vote it away is not how it works.
It's not going to happen. So the best way, so I get in this discussion all the time, and it's definitely, you know, do we know too much? I just did a podcast with a bunch of buddies from the Nephilim Death Squad. Do we know too much? Is that hurting us? And I my opinion is no. My opinion is the more you know what's going on, the more you can pull your energy out of it. And that is how you fight. Now, if we're hurling towards collapse, what can we do about it? We can prepare ourselves through gold, silver, guns, growing your own food, homeschooling. Like maybe the structure of America may not be here the way we want it to. I still think we're going to make it through it. I think at the end of the day, but you know,
it's a balance between awareness and being a doomer. I think that's part of the problem, right? And I look at myself in my early 20s and like, dude, I was way too much of a doomer. And I think that's what you can get into, just getting information for the sake of information. Now, if you're getting information for the sake of awareness and for the sake of being causative, I think that's valuable. But I think oftentimes you can just go down this rabbit hole of watching the next video or reading the next article or getting the next book or whatever, reading the next tweet. You have to be able to have information to use it, but not be a doomer. It's a very difficult balance, guys, and I don't think there's any kind of correct point of what is that fulcrum that you swing on, but it is a balance between having the information and just, being a glutton for it.
Yeah, and I think you have to know where to put your energy into. And your energy should not be into living in fear of the other side, living in fear of politics, living in fear of constant world war, living in fear of this, living in fear of that. You should be setting yourself up for if something does happen: gold, silver, guns, property, raising animals, educating your children. That's what I believe. That's how
you're stupid not to, right? Like, you should have those things because you need to be prepared, right?
I really want to get out of the big city. Like, I really want to live outside of a big city where I can drive in, get that energy that comes with living in a big city, and then get the fuck out.
Because you moved out, I would say, a little bit out of the city. You were talking like you want to move like out, maybe like Riverside, like Riverside, IE.
No, I don't even I'm not even talking.
You're talking.
Yeah, that's
out of state.
Saying that's out of the city is really I know what out of the ccity looks like, and that is not out of the city.
I didn't expect Sam to want that.
People like to think Yonkers is out of the city. You are not. You are not out of the city, my friends.
Yeah. I want to be out where it's like I know my neighbors, but maybe I don't see them every time I leave my house. You know what I'm saying?
I was just talking to. I don't know if you know. Do you guys know Billy Ray Valentine? I was just talking to him about this, and I'm like, dude, unless you get out of a city, you are very screwed because you're gonna have like 3 days until all of your food shut off, and then all those people that don't know how to get food or how to do whatever, they're just gonna go nuts.
Yeah.
The best thing you can do is get out of a city, man.
That's what I'm working on right now, dude. I mean, like, there's some places like, listen, there's a lot of people that leave Cali that move right back. They've done studies on it. Like, everyone left for Idaho, they all moved back. Like, everybody moves back because of the weather. That's why everybody moves here, because of the weather. And you just got to figure out a way that you could be here and get out, or find an area. You're just never going to find the weather that you have here.
There's no way to get out, though. And I mean, not in any reasonable amount of time without just hoofing it, basically, or taking like a dirt bike or something. Traffic, I mean, the highway, the
I just want to get to
down.
where just like Ramona outside San Diego looks like there's a lot of land there, and it's not as expensive
San
to live
Diego's
in.
so close to the border, though. I mean, I could just see that being a hot zone, for
I want to get a
problem.
A house that has 2 floors and just one balcony that just has a Gatling gun and just like get the fuck off my lawn. Where I roll up and just
put a fire
I think
on the
people
bottom
when they
floor
try
and
to
screw.
leave, when people try to leave, they try to go like too hard, too fast. Like Jason Calacanis is leaving California and he's going to Texas. He's like, I'm buying a ranch. It's like, how about you start with an acre or 2 first and see if that works for you? If you went from an apartment, man, like I think that might be part of the issue is people
That's
try to
my
bite off more
problem.
than they can chew.
That's my problem for sure. I need to
I could see you doing the Stanhope thing where you just go and just create your own like community and
I love where Stanhope lives.
you should do that.
You were there, right?
Oh, yeah,
Did you
yeah.
go? That little ass town, and it's like fortified by mountains. Like
Perfect. A
you'll
little
be able
small.
to put some people on there. Anybody comes in, pow, 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 pow.
Switzerland.
Yeah, I mean, dude, stop with Switzerland, please. So that's it, man.
Don't get
That's what I think. I think this is a great episode. Is there anything about Rome we didn't talk about? Because I mean, dude, it is the exact same game plan, and this is how you know none of it's real. They just keep running the same plan over and over and over again.
Well, I think the bigger thing is people getting sucked into trying to solve your problems politically, because that's exactly what the Romans tried to do. You got to solve your money. That is your number one thing by far. But the second thing you have to solve, and we see with what's happening right here, right now, you have to solve your borders. Because if you're bringing people in, there was this 2 radicals in the 60s named Cloward and Piven. And they had the idea that if you could overwhelm the welfare system, you could bring down a country.
Yes.
And that's what we're seeing, here in America, as we're seeing people coming in over the borders. There's nothing wrong with immigration, but people coming in unchecked is a problem at the rate they're coming in. So you're having your money is going down. Your money's now going into new social programs for all these new people coming in. That's a recipe for disaster. So unless you solve your currency, which, I'm not the expert at this, you probably want to talk to somebody like Charlie Robinson or Tony Arterburn or somebody like that. We need to get back on a solid currency is a big part of it. It's going to be bumpy for a while, even if we do that. It's not going to be perfect because we've been over our skis for such a long time. But you have to solve your border problem and you have to solve your money problem, or your empire is toast, man. That's what it comes down to.
Kill the bankers.
It's always the bankers.
Kill the bankers. Kill the bankers. Jeremy, great episode. I'm glad we finally got to make it happen. I've always enjoyed talking to you on the Union of the Unwanted, having you on there. So it's finally good to come on to this show and drop hammer. Great conversation. One more time, tell them where they could find you.
Yeah, so you can find me. I'm at Jeremy Ryan Slate on all platforms, jeremyryanslate.com, or my company where we help to facilitate conversations just like this, because I think that is how we change the future, is to have conversations on podcasts and new media. That's Command Your Brand. You can find us over at commandyourbrand.com.
Well, I love it, dude. I'm glad we made this happen. I look forward to having more conversations with you. Hopefully, we can do it again in the very near future. And guys, one more time, I'm going to be in Indianapolis. And on the 3rd, which is, or I already did, I don't know. We'll figure it out. All right, guys, let's break down this episode. Here we go. What do you guys think? I thought it was a banger, dude. I mean, obviously, I think about Rome every day, and the fact that we could talk about it was absolutely amazing. But to see the connections, the correlations between what happened to Rome and what's happening here is super powerful.
I was wondering why, I said, I was asked, do you think about Rome? And I actually gave a real answer. And I never really thought why. And I'm glad how he came back. He's like, this is why
What
it's
did
in
you
your
say?
brain.
What was your real answer?
The aqua thing, and how they had
Aqua thing.
how they shot us the
Aqueducts.
aqueducts, that, and they also showed us the Colosseum, how they would bring on elephants. These guys were rich. They would bring elephants from Africa just to put them in the
You
Colosseum.
think about
and
that
fight.
every day?
I swear,
Johnny, I think about Rome almost every day.
I swear it was a real answer.
I just think about, are we Rome? What happened to Rome? What is is the Colosseum really what we thought it was? And that gets into my whole thing about the 1,000 years of Jesus. I think about it all the time, dude.
You really don't ever think about Rome? Is there an empire? Is there an empire?
Every day, no. No,
What about the Ottoman Empire?
I think about it a lot. So I mean, I love it. Dude, guy's super smart, good looking, Popeye arms. You see those?
Yeah, dude, he's
that guy had giant arms,
Shredded.
bro. Just giant arms.
We'll get there someday, Sam.
I'm trying, dude. I've been lifting weights.
Dude, that's like when a female has really big boobs and you can't concentrate on what she's doing. I was like, how'd you look at his arms?
I couldn't believe how big his arms were. I'm like, that guy's got some fucking giant fucking hammers, dude. I loved it, dude. I thought it was great. I mean, it makes me sad that they tried to make Caesar into a power bottom.
So
that was back then too, right?
Yeah. Do you think we can stop the fall of the United States, like the fall of Rome? Do you think it's about to happen? It is what it is. Be ready.
I think the empire of America will be coming to an end.
How long? If you had to give it a rough estimate, 100, 200?
No.
Are we not the power in 200? We're not the power in 100?
I think we got
20?
Of being an empire. I do 20 years the most, I think.
Is that a bad thing?
No, I don't.
I don't think so.
I think we're gonna find out that people are gonna realize that we're gonna see a real change in, I think, funding wars. I think people will be over it.
Yeah.
I hope, or we just become the fucking stormtroopers for the elites.
If there's no empire, that means there's no emperor. You
Yeah.
know what I mean? Let's do something a little smaller.
So I was about to say, if there's no emperor or empire, is it what everyone's just little? There's no America, there's no USA, Russia ain't gonna take it over, China don't take it over, and no one becomes the emperor.
Well, it's very interesting because, and I wish we would have got into it, but it was such a great conversation and we didn't have to bring it up, was the fall of Rome. Did it just become the Vatican and the Catholic Church? Is the fall of England, did it just become the Bank of America? I mean, a Bank of England, excuse me. The Bank of America is very interesting.
What do you mean it became that, though? I mean, those things sprouted from its ruins. But, I mean, when you're talking about what Rome is, Rome was a society. Rome was cities. You know what I mean? Those things didn't become one city.
Right. Well, I mean, the power center. Did it kind of change how it ran? Like it still runs everything, but it's not necessarily having armies all over the world. You know, they operate different. So the question becomes, what becomes of America? Does America become the military arm of the black nobility, where the city of London is the banking arm and the Vatican is the religious arm? I could see us, you know, and I know it's a naughty term, and you've mentioned it a few times, or a negative term, but it's, you know, being balkanized, where we have these regional. That's my biggest fear, is the balkanization of America. I don't know if it's a bad thing. What, the balkanization? Well, have we done more good than harm since World War II? Oh, we got hijacked. That's why. No, but I'm saying, would it not be better for us to not be poking our nose in everywhere? Johnny, can I ask you something? Do you think that all these Eastern Bloc countries that used to be the USSR, do you think they're better off now? Well, I mean, I know they're all at war with each other constantly. The people I know who were from there said that they were worse off in the Soviet Union. They were, because they had no freedom of travel. You know, they were. Okay. They had no freedom of career. If you think they couldn't choose their careers. Then what happens to the Constitution? Well, I don't know that the Constitution will necessarily fail. I mean, I just but if you break up America, the Constitution doesn't apply anymore. And that's the biggest fear we have right now, is something called COG, continuation of government. And that's when the Constitution gets thrown out and we go into basically mini dictators. Well, I think a lot of what exists as the bureaucracy right now is not constitutional. It's extra constitutional. I agree. It's not. So I just think the government, if it actually followed the Constitution we have, would look radically different from what it does right now. So there's room to downsize without dissolving the Constitution, I believe. We'll see, dude. I think it's weird times, bro. It's going to be interesting to see what happens, dude. I mean, did you see I'm anti-balkanization. Biden this week talking about changing the Supreme Court. Did you see that? Well, that was what he wanted to do from the start. Not bad ideas, necessarily. I mean, I do think it's kind of insane that we have this group of people that kind of sit above. But the point of that is that they should never have to worry about whether they're going to make money or anything like that. Right. Now, are they being influenced? Yes, 100%. Yeah. But they're also, I mean, they're bullshit artists, most of them. It's, you know, they're, I don't know. I'm surprised I thought the Democrats would have tried to pack the court by now, because, you know, there's nothing that says there has to be 9 justices. They could add 10 and then make them all Democrats if you know, I mean, it would take congressional approval, which they wouldn't get. But when they had that power, you know, like especially when like Garland was shot down for Obama, because that was something different. Like when we had a sitting president nominate somebody for the Supreme Court, and then the Senate was like, nah, we're waiting. Boy, they get that one right. That guy turned out to be a piece of shit. Of course. But that changed our politics. I really think that moment. I agree. All right, guys, go to SamTripoli.com and grab tickets. Again, I'm going to be in Indianapolis this weekend, Saturday night, 2 shows, 7:30 and 10. Then I'm going to be in the Comedy Store. Hopefully it'll be sold out sooner than later. 2 shows, 8 p.m., 10:30, the Comedy Store. Then Long Beach at the end of the month. So go check that out. New dates being added to SamTripoli.com all the time. Guys, check out our affiliate program. Well, first of all, check out the premium content, putting up new stuff all the time. Listen, you like dangerous conversations? Everyone's talking about this, talk about that. I talk about it in the premium content. You don't even get to see it listed. That's how dangerous it is. We keep it dangerous. No one's there except for those on the inside, okay? Only $8 for so much content put every week. Check that out. Go down Cash Daddy's. Johnny, talk about the Cash Daddy's Patreon. Yeah, how he's killing it. If you don't know anything at all about investing, it's a good place to start. You can learn a lot. He'll communicate with you directly there. We all do. We do a little question and answer session at the end of the regular episodes. It's wonderful. Come join. It's great.
800 strong.
Yeah, people are happy to help. You know, it's not just Howie or us. It's a community of people that are happy to help each other.
Well, that's what I'm saying. I'm sure you guys have other people that know about stocks and shit.
The whole community is just everybody talking to each other about what they think's happening. The new Chaos Twins just got approved. That will be out hopefully sooner than later. We will let you know when you can get that. I'm so excited about. Go down T-shirts available at SamTripoli.com. Check them out. Gold and silver all the time. Go to SamTripoli.gold. Use the promo code tinfoil. Get precious metals sent to your house for as little as $50 a month. Okay, we also have Rife Technology, AquaCure Hydrogen Brown Gas. Get that hydrogen in your body. It slows down the aging process. Harley Ray. If you need, look at that gorgeous website. If you need candles, if you need crystals, this is the place to go. If you need crystals and candles, they have that too. Go to that. I love my chemical free body. I take it every day. Grab it, join us. It's the best. Dude, this is what I do. I take the green drink in the morning and then I do his vitamins later on. And I absolutely love it. Again, Alpha Energy is my all-time banger. Check that out. Go back. Joel Staley, if you want to get in shape. EMF rocks. Use the promo code tinfoil and get anything to help you with those dirty energy bags, you name it, it's all there. EMF blockers, all there. And then finally, check out Brain Supreme, next level shit. Our good friend Xavier Guerrero is banging out microdosing. Okay, he can now read at a 5th grade level. We're so proud of him. Banging it out, next level shit. Check it out. He says you don't feel high, you just feel focused, which is great for everybody involved. Go down. Yep, there we go. Any of my podcasts you want to listen to, go down, check those out. Radio, you can listen to me all the time. My specials again. Quiet is coming out mid-August. Hopefully, it's done editing. 1 hour of power. All my stand-up clips are there, and then anything you want to watch is on SamTripoli.com. Anything else, guys?
We Don't Smoke the Same live this Saturday. FullyToxic.com for tickets.
Come hang out with me on Twitter at Johnny Woodard. I am so bored.
All right. Enjoy these highlights.
Here's a clip from the latest Broken Sim.
I love this chick.
Yeah, she's amazing.
I think it's hilarious.
Can you hear it now? Is it?
Republicans are full of guns, food, and ammunition. And these Democrats are full of gay shit, pronouns, and even more gay shit. Let's make America great again.
They not like us. They not like us.
All right, she got my vote.
I mean, I don't know what that has to do with running for Secretary of State in Missouri, but
I don't even know. Sure. But dude, she's about two of those commercials away from dropping FWGs, dog. And she'll probably get all the vote then.
And then the last thing, I just want to. This is really brief. It's Alex Stein has been on fire.
Alex Stein is great.
Huge balls.
I mean, we've had our friends come on the show and say he's controlled it. Dude, I watched Alex Stein blow up.
I wish he would come back. Can we have him back on?
Yeah, he said he would do it. He's fearless. Fearless.
And he's taking some blows for it, too. It helps that he's a big guy.
He's a big guy, bro. Yeah. He's a big guy.
So here he interrupts our great friend.
The fat ass?
Uger. I don't know how to say that guy's fucking name, and I don't care to learn.
Uger, I think?
Yeah, from the Young Turks.
Sank is transgender.
So he's live on Piers Morgan.
Yeah.
Alex Stein pops his head in and goes, Sink is transgender.
No, I'm not. I don't know.
Hey, get out of here, man. What the hell? Jesus Christ, you lunatic Republicans.
Well, you're at the Republican convention. Like, that's enemy lines.
He loved that, dude. Sink loved that. They
all love it because it's all about viral moments now.
Yes.
Like, we're destroying our society for viral moments. Yeah. But I am pro Alex Stein doing that.
Me too. Oh, yeah.
Sink is just garbage.
I would love to talk to Alex next time he's on if he was influenced at all by Tom Green, because I loved Tom Green as a kid, and it seems like he's got a lot of that flavor.
I mean, he's just like, dude, it's like some people realize like what people love to watch, and he's just really great at giving that, and he's fearless in that.
Yeah, he's quick too in the moment. He's really good with that.
I mean, like, he's also like 6'3", so he's not afraid of anybody.
Yeah, that helps.
Right? And he just walks into these like camps of idiots,
and nobody can make fun of him for not being single or an incel.
And it's just like, dude, people keep thinking Civil War's coming. Like, Do you really think it's going to be states versus each other, or is it going to be ideologies versus each other? So you're basically going to have a bunch of zero dark 30s versus like the baristas at Starbucks. Who do you think's going to win?
Yeah, I mean Antifa. Yeah, it's so much smaller group than all these little militias and stuff that would support the right. Yeah.
Here's what happens, Johnny. The left gets paid for by the vampires to come muck it up, and then the adults decide, okay, I'm over this, and then they show up and they all go away.
Yeah,
Kenosha, great example of that. The adults show up.
No, totally. Last thing I want to talk about, you seem to be obsessed with the rate me section on Reddit.
Johnny, I can't stop looking at this. It's because I'm from an age that was before the internet, right? When my youth. And all we were told is that you should show women respect and love and like they're not sex objects. And the internet has shown us that these chicks are just narcissistic. So all they do is they go on this Reddit and they're just cute girls at 18 years old, which is probably like, would you say what? Like we know that women's sites show that women's sexual prime is their 30s, right? Is that what it is?
I think they say it's 30, but that might be
their physical prime is like what? What age would you say? 22, 23?
Yeah,
like,
22, I would say, yeah.
Like their physical prime, but I think that their physical prime.
I think everybody's physical prime is probably like 22. Everybody looks like the young, the cleanest. You know what I mean? Just there's no weathering on your face.
But there's a difference between physically attractive and beautiful, in my opinion, right? Like there's some women who've lived life that are beautiful. Like they're just composed.
No, I'm not talking. We're just talking about purely a material point of view right here.
Okay,
yeah.
Right. So we, but all you have are these like smoke show, like 19-year-olds.
If you don't know what it is, it's a place where these hot women just come on and say, "Hey, could you guys rate me?"
Yeah, and they're just fire. They're just fire, and they know they're fire, and all they want to be told is, "I'm a 10."
My question is this: what percentage of them are just there to pump their OnlyFans, hoping that guys think that they're that insecure? And then click on their profile and it says like, just check out my OnlyFans, hugs and kisses.
Oh no, you can tell which ones because they're always like, DM me if you want. I'm like, what kind of chick is to randos on the internet? DM me if you want.
Well, dude, apparently Tinder now, which is thank God I haven't had to be on there. Tinder now is littered. It's like half OnlyFans profiles and people trying to promote shit. Now, like the women that you can't even like meet people on Tinder anymore. It's just clogged with fake profiles and like real OnlyFans and then fake OnlyFans.
Jay Dyer does a song about pay pigs. But Johnny, can you find any of these pictures?
Jay Dyer does music?
Yeah. Can you find any of the pictures I've sent you where we all agree 18-year-olds didn't look like this when we were 18?
Or are we wanting to look at 18-year-olds on YouTube though? Is that a thing?
Yeah, but Johnny, as far as I know, that's legal, right?
It is legal. Yeah.
Okay.
Hold
on.
on.
All I'm saying is that they don't look. While you're looking that up, Johnny,
right.
I'm going to give respect to the super chat. Super chat, sup nerds? Thank you, Rennick Johnson. Okay, Johnny. Okay, we already did the Johnny the bleaching. No shade, no low vibrational. You guys rock. Thank you, Corona. Thank you. That's great.
My Corona.
Love all the content. Thank you, as Twizzler. I don't even know what that means. We do 5s and above, right? We do 5s and above. Biden has been gone for a long time, and the actor who has been playing him gets to disappear into the night. I voted for Trump twice, and I'm positive the Vova Daddy's second term will be a nightmare. Okay, I'm not against that. Here we go. Another Disney guy arrested. Yeah. Oh, did you see that guy on? Do you see the guy? You see the guy on Cartoon Network? If you said draw a pedo, this is how he would look.
Completely. Yeah. No. Totally.
Thank you. Here we go. Please tell me you believe the same people that did 9/11 did COVID, and it was released on plan. Some folks tried to take out Trump. Peace and love. Okay, yeah.
To be clear, that is a harmful conspiracy theory, and we
We
deny
disavow that harmful conspiracy theory.
That's
Bad
terrible.
theories here
That's
on
terrible.
YouTube. Bad theories. You guys give conspiracies a bad name.
Conspiracy theories are bad. They're harmful.
Side note, you guys ever heard of Ezra's eagle prophecy? Okay, is that a bad conspiracy theory
Sounds like
too?
a cool band.
Yeah, Ezra's Eagles. Hi, guys. Welcome. Hello, Los Angeles. We're Ezra's Eagles.
Let's see. Okay, what is the Ezra Eagle theory in the LDS Church? It's a theory by James Prout based on apocryphal scripture prophecy in the book of Ezra. The theory is apocryphal means either extra biblical or untrue. I'm not sure which in this case. The theory is regarding a description of an eagle with feathers that, according to Prout, represent U.S. presidents that correspond to how long or the number of terms they serve as president. If the future were to come out according to his theory, there are only a small handful of future presidents.
We go deep, homeboy. Aaron, open your mind. Drink from the fountain of knowledge. There's lizard people everywhere. That's some interdimensional shit. Wake up, Aaron.
This is only the beginning.
Dude, you just blew my mind.
Tinfoil hat.